Today's talk is about the making of Moby Dick. Now, believe it or not, Father of Gokenya, I was in Moby Dick at 10 years of age. I was an extra, and my sister was in it. God help us, Eileen, she's dead now, Carissa. 7 years of age, and we got 3.5 crowns, 7 and 6 every day we were wanted. But they were very smart. They only called us when they wanted us. Like the filming went on for 2 months, like the real filming now, July and August, and the evening before you were wanted, bills went up around the town in certain windows, and we all had code numbers, and the code number would be on the window if you were wanted the next morning, and you'd be looking at the windows every night. And you'd be wanted once a week or once a fortnight, you know. But it was 7 and 6, 3.5 crowns, 1954 for a child, like it was a pile of money. Not that our parents took it and we didn't get it, but even so, it was a great crack. But to go back to the very start, there was a chap came here, an international journalist called Claude Coburn, and he lived out the Quarry Road about a mile in a place called Brook Lodge. It was a very old house that he was renting from the O'Keefe family. They were in America. And Claude had been an international journalist all over Europe, the Spanish Civil War and the Second World War, and he met a fellow journalist, Patricia Arbuthnot, who happened to be the sister of Commander Arbuthnot of the RNLI here, and she brought him back to Youghal. Patricia did. Claude Coburn, lovely man. And they lived in Walter Alley's house with the Arbutnots for a small while, and then they rented this house out in Brook Lodge, where Sean O'Sullivan the vet lives now. He built a new house on the site, but it was about a mile out of town. And when I was a telegram boy long ago, I'd have to go over the telegram to Claude because he'd no phone. His income was very irregular, which meant that he couldn't pay his bills like on time. It was like a feast and a famine, but he'd always give me sixpence. I never forgot it for him. But he had a friend in America, a fella called John Huston, famous Hollywood producer. And John Huston had made a film already on one of Claude's books called Shake Hands with the Devil. It was about the IRA and the troubled times and that. So they were very, very friendly. And Claude was getting small royalties now from that, as you would after, your book being used to make a film. But John Huston from Hollywood never came to Dublin without coming to Youghal as well to visit Claude. They were so friendly. And that time now, 1954, it was either come down by train and taxi to Youghal or get a limo from Dublin, which he mainly did, a limo the whole way from Dublin to Youghal. That's John Huston now. So one day he arrived down anyway to Claude, one of the many times, and they were sitting outside in Brook Lodge, and it was very shabby. The tiles of the roof and all were gone, and it was lashing rain, and the rain was coming down through the roof, through the ceiling, through the next ceiling, and they were sitting in the lounge, and they each had a bowl on their laps to catch the rain. And John Huston at that time, this was now 1953, before 1954 of course, John Huston had a check in his pocket from Warner Brothers for $1 million to make a film about Moby Dick. And here he was trying to keep dry with a ball in his lap. Claude told me that himself. He was very funny, lovely man, Claude Coburn. But anyway, people often ask then, why was Youghal picked for the making of Moby Dick? And there are 3 reasons. The first one was Claude. Claude had so much influence on John Huston that Claude, if you like, brought it to Youghal. As well as that then, when you go to the lighthouse, even today, and look across, that hill is almost untouched by hand over there. There's no telephone pole or anything to suggest modern times. You couldn't put a year on it, and that suited the filming. When the Pequod was leaving the harbour, you had this green hill, untouched, on the far side. But the other one was, it was February then, move on into February 1954. John Huston came down from Dublin again, but this time he had a few with him in a big limo, and they parked down here now, the Market Square, down the quayside, and they were looking around, and they saw these old guys. A lot of the old Youghal sailors grown up beside the river, of course, had been in the British Navy, and they all wore navy, evermore, and packed pea caps. See the fellow over there, look, pea caps like that, navy coloured pea caps, yeah, and they had white beards and all. And when John Huston got out of the car, he saw these guys standing at the corner of, the cellars below, and standing below at the Fisherman's Quaff, and they were made for it. Like, it was like they were ready to start the film, these guys, because the film was set, as you know, the story was set in a place called New Bedford. I saw all these fellas ready dressed for the parts, and Michael Murray, a lovely man, lived out the Strand. Michael Murray was helping to build. Where's Margaret? Margaret Buttermore?
Who's there?
Margaret, your house now. Michael Murray was doing a job, we say on your house, but it was one of those houses, we'll say yours, down on the quayside, with about 8 or 10 men. When John Huston put up in the car, and of course, locals, Michael Murray couldn't stay back. He went over, "Are you okay?" Looking for something, you see. And John Huston, it turned out to be John Huston, said, we're very impressed with the keys here and that, and we want to know, would you be available for the summer if we make a film here? Would you make the sets for us? And John Murray said, am I hearing right? Yes, we hope to make a film here in the summer of this year, 1954. And will you make this? You're obviously a builder. Will you make the set? Yes, I'd be delighted, says Michael. I'd be delighted. Now, Murray's, as you know, like, they were famous. They built the Strand Church. Like, they did a lot of big job, Murray builders around town. So Michael was delighted, and he went back to his men, back to Margaret's house, and he said, "You see those guys? They're coming here in the summer to make a film." They thought he had banged his head. They couldn't believe him. They said, "It's not, But it turned out to be true. When it came to May and June, early May, they arrived back, the film people, and they met Michael Murray, and he undertook to make the sets. And he took on anybody who could do anything. A handyman, a painter, a carpenter. If you could do anything, he took you on, because the money was there. And Michael Murray, he'd been well paid by the $1 million man, John Huston. It turned out anyway that Michael Murray had to paint all the, I call them the cement stone houses in the area with lines to resemble boards, to resemble timber houses of New Bedford, where the story was set, of 1850. As well as that, he had to stick poles in the ground, I call them telephone poles, and put cross members on those with sails to look like ships. And another thing he had to do was make these mock houses, put up big fronts, but they were only fronts. They weren't houses at all. They had no roofs on, they had no backs, just a front, like for the cameras. And I remember Eileen and I, as I said, were in it, and walking into the church one day, this pretend church, we got in and there was no sky, at least there was no roof, it was all sky. And Eileen and I was 10 and she was 7, we were holding the hands of a woman who lived up the street, a Mrs. Bush. She was Jimmy Bush's wife. And she was our pretend mother in the film, walking along. But what we couldn't understand as kids was why we were holding this woman's hands when our real mother was at home with no part in the film. It didn't make sense to us, Sorry, I think I better sit down, all right. Cecil Pratt up here had a lovely shop, selling fishing tackle. And it was a fine big shop now. Cecil was on one side with his fishing tackle and so on, and his wife Lizzie was on the other side selling plates and statues and everything. And when Gregory Peck would be in town, Cecil would be on his own. Lizzie would be down the quay the whole day, admiring her hero. And when Cecil would be asked, somebody going from Sausage House or somewhere for a cup or a saucer, where's Lizzie at her counter? She's down watching her boyfriend. You see, the middle-aged women were mad about Gregory Peck. He was their idol. Where the younger crowd then, the teenagers and the young 20s, their man was a fellow called Richard Basehart. He was about 20 odd, like he was more near to them. But the middle-aged women, the housewives of the town, it was Gregory Peck. Funny thing is that, to go back again to the decking out of the sets and that. There were 4 real ships in the dock. There was the Rylands across the way, which was the Pequod, the main boat. The 3 Brothers, owned by Commander Abbott, was up here by the credit union. The James Postlewaite was at Margaret's house, just in Middleways, by Moby Dick's. And down at the end, then, towards the tourist office, was the Harvest King. There were 4 real tall ships. But to look at it from across from the ferry point, to look at the town for that summer, you'd swear there was 20 ships in port, with these poles with sails in every back garden, up around Buttermore's dock and all that, all over the place. You know, the power of suggestion, and what these people could do. Paddy Linden, we must mention Paddy Linden. Paddy Linden had a little small butcher shop at the corner, and the pub was next to that. But Paddy wasn't long after when the film was finished. Paddy wasn't long when he closed the butcher shop and made it all a pub, and he called it Moby Dick's, and he even extended it up a bit and he called it Spouters Inn, and it's still there, like the huge pub. But Paddy told me himself, very funny, he said the film crew paid Paddy £5 a week in 1954 now, a lot of money. £5 a week for the use of a small room upstairs where they met, the film crew, they met at 6 o'clock every morning. Wasn't that dedication though, like how keen they were? They met at 6 o'clock every morning to plan the day's filming. And Paddy said, the Americans, he said, they were mad for port wine. I sold more port, he said, that year than the whole of Ireland. I sold more port, he said, he's joking me then, I sold more port, he said, than would float the Pequod, the ship in the film. So Paddy did well, Paddy did very well out of it. To move on then, Gregory Peck, there was Gregory Peck, Richard Basehart, Leo Ginn, Royal Dano, Noel Purcell from Dublin, a lot of famous names now in the film. But what we researched, we did a book on it in 1954. It was the 50th anniversary of the making of the film. Michael O'Brien got arrested, they're all dead now. Pa and Brendan and all helped me to do this book. But we established anyway, Gregory Peck never stayed in Youghal, I imagine. He stayed in the Metropole in Cork. Now Youghal had 11 hotels at that time. 11, just quickly now. The Imperial up here, the Stella Maris in Strand Street, the Devonshire Hotel, the Green Park 4, the Adelphi 5, Parkview 6, go out into the Lighthouse, Tommy's place, the Harbour View, Miss Savage, around the corner, the Pacific, the Atlantic, the Marine, and down in the front, Susan Hurley's Esplanade, 11 hotels, and yet Gregory Peck stayed in Cork. Now, that's his own business. He came up and down every day in a limo, and one day he arrived the changing rooms down in the town hall, if you wanted to be done up for the film or anything, so he had to go into the town hall when he arrived before coming up to the Market Square, before coming up to the set. But he arrived one day in the limo, and there were thousands. I mean, what it meant to the town, the train was running at the time now. Trains, they hadn't enough trains to bring down the crowd. They were arriving every half an hour, chock-a-block. And as for Sunday, you know, packed completely. Yeah, we have photographs to show like thousands of people down around the dock watching the filming. But Gregory arrived one day in the limo, and he barely got into the town hall with the crowd. There were thousands of people. And one of his helpers had a little mini parked out behind the town hall. And anyway, what they did was they put Gregory into the mini and out through the crowd. Excuse me, nobody suspected. Gregory was inside the mini, and they got him out through the crowd and up to the Market Square, and before the gang realised, he was above filming already. But so much was the enthusiasm that they had a job to keep him alive nearly. The women were so mad about him. A woman who lives in Church Lane, some of you may know her, Clodagh Madden. Clodagh Madden was in the film as well as a child. Like when I went through the other day in my head again, and the people who are alive now that I know who were extras in that film, they're very few. Like there was Eleanor Ita Beecher out the Strand, married to Jim Beecher. And there was myself and Eileen, my sister, God rest her, she's dead. There was Jean Doyle, Anne Reardon, and Laura, like Anne Reardon, and there was Phyllis Gall, who was the daughter of the manager of the provincial bank up there. And was there somebody else? There's only a handful alive now who were involved in it. But where is it with that now? All those. So we move on then to the filming went on anyway. It was very good. And Clodagh Madden, Clodagh Madden has come to Strand Street to her aunt. Yeah, and did you know that murder?
Yeah,
Madden's.
They're still coming.
Next door to
Clodagh's come down next door to Michael T's.
They're still coming.
Clodagh's come down with her little brother. She was about 10, 11, and the little brother was only 6. And they arrived down for their summer holidays like that now in early July or whenever it was. And the aunt said, quick, go up to the town hall, they're interviewing for extras. So the two of them ran up to the town hall, and they didn't know about around the back. All the crowd were around the back, and they were directed up the fire escape. There's a photograph of that available. Yeah, that's right. You see, they're queued up now to be interviewed see the bottom photograph. They're queued up to be interviewed to become extras. Now, Clodagh didn't know about that. They didn't just arrive. So they went in the front door, and a security fella stopped them, and the little fella seemingly was all smiles. And the security man said, "Hey, little boy, he said, I want to be in your film, sir." And he gave him a big smile. Go on, he said, get up and they went up the front way. And the two of them were taken on. Very funny. So we move on from there then to the characters. There were a few real characters as extras. They sent down, what do they call it again, a dredger from Cork to dredge out the mud of the dock. But the dredger couldn't get in the whole way up to the corner where credit union is. So the corner of the credit union where they wanted to put Commander Arbuthnot's two-masted schooner had to be dug up by hand. And that was it. We photographed that somewhere as well. The fellas down the mud, digging out the mud. But the trouble with that was they were making very slow progress because the tide comes in and out twice a day. And it was undoing a lot of what they were at. So they had to work faster than the tide could undo it. But eventually they got Commander Arbuthnot's boat in right up by where the credit union is now. So it went on like that.
The characters you were talking
But the characters, yeah, exactly, the characters. Rosalind Cronin was a great character in town. And Rosalind wasn't an extra now, but she was in the middle of it all. And Rosalind was a little bit forward, like she was a bit cheeky. And Rosalind wanted Gregory Peck's autograph. And Gregory Peck was over on the pier head, doing his stuff, like about to go whaling, and he gesturing and all, and the crowd were kept back at this side. They weren't allowed onto the pier head, they were cut off. But Rosalind went to go over to Gregory Peck, and she was stopped by the big guard Dempsey, was there, and some Sergeant O'Byrne, and security fellas, film fellas, and they stopped Rosalind, and she resented it. She said, "This is my town, that's public area, and anyway, go home, Rosalind." So she went home. Shortly before that, a woman from tapestry called Phil Desmond, she was a dressmaker. She had made a bathing costume for Rosalind out of white linen flower bags. They were all the go that time. Checky Forest Bakery just here next door. The flour came in these white flower bags, linen bags, and they were very sought after by mothers for kids' cots and to make clothes, skirts and all, pure linen now. And Phil Desmond had made a white bathing costume for Rosalind, because Rosalind was a big woman. I said she wouldn't have been able to buy one to fit her anyway. So Phil Desmond made a bathing costume for Rosalind. And Rosalind went home, in bad form, put on the white bathing costume, and put on her brown Crombie coat, which she wore fairly often, and a rumber hat and shoes. And she went on down here, and down round the lifeboat station, and took off her Crombie coat and slipped into the water in the white bathing. She swam up along under the wall. She was a powerful swimmer now. Rosalind often swam over and back the river, no bother. So she swam up under the wall, unknown to everybody. They were all watching Gregory Peck, and she went behind the pier head, climbed up one of those steel ladders, that the salmon fishermen have, and came up behind Gregory Peck.
In her bathing tops.
"Can I have your autograph, Mr. Peck?" And he turned around, and if there was ever a Moby Dick, this was it, This apparition in white, looking at him, and she's so wet. The crowd here, thousands of people now, they were watching. They all roared, laughing, shouting, the noise was held over now more.
There she goes!
So the filming had to be suspended until the following day. That was Rosalind. And somebody asked me, did she get the autograph? Yeah. I don't know. I kind of doubt it. I doubt that she did.
She didn't have a pen.
No, Eileen O'Brien lived in Kent's Grattan Street, Margaret, yeah. Crossing Credit Union. Michael O'Brien, famous sailor. He's not he's not long dead, lovely man. And his sister Eileen told me, they're all gone nearly. She remembered 1954 very well, because her house was actually painted with the lines like to resemble boards, a timber house in New Bedford. She said, that's the year, she said, my house was painted to resemble a timber house. Up on the roof, my parents got a fiver to give permission to put up what they call a widow's walk on the roof of the house. There's a timber platform that women sat up and knitting, waiting for their husbands' masts to come over the horizon long ago. No phones or no radio or anything. And it was called a widow's walk. And one of those was built on top of Eileen O'Brien's house, 3 floors high, like up in the roof, for the filming. As well as that, she said, it was the year I got a hug from Richard Basehart. Now, she was that age, like Richard Basehart's age. And of course, we were lucky in town because we had organs and we had the Regal. We had 2 cinemas. So the townspeople were familiar with a lot of those film stars already. But it was the year she got a hug from Richard Basehart. And the last thing she said was, it was the first It was the year I got my first set of false teeth. So there's some memories for you. There were some great characters then as extras. There were some great characters as extras, and some of them would be dressed up. They got the gear down the town hall, you see, to wear knitted hats, boleros, and all the rest to resemble New Bedford of 1850. And some of them loved it so much that even when they weren't on, when the numbers weren't on the windows the night before, they still wore the clothes to be part of it. And the tourists would home in on them, like, are you in the film? You dress up. I am. You tell us about it. And they ended up getting a few points for their talk. Like they were, they were well appreciated and they were good at it. A bit like me, really. But anyway, one fella, Noel was at the door of Moby Dick's pub one day when an Italian tourist came along, and she said he was all dressed up like New Bedford, and she, I am, yeah, tell me about it. So he told her, like, he said, that's the Royal Lands, and that's the James Postlethwaite, and that's the Harvest King, and explained a lot of it. And she was delighted with him. So she put her hand in her pocket, she gave him a note, 10, she was Italian, and it was well before the euro, 10,000 lira, 10000, and his eyes popped when he got this present. And he said to Paddy Lennon inside the bar, Paddy! There was about 20 in the bar, like, drinks on the house. So anyway, that was alright. 10 minutes after, he looked at it again, like, 10000, Paddy! Drinks on the house. So a third time in here, Paddy said, hold on off, Paddy. Paddy was kind of cute enough, like, hold on, said Paddy. Go up to the bank and see what you get. He went up to the bank and he got £1 10 shillings. And Paddy had to pay for the drinks. He was at the door, the same guy, he was at the door another day, and one of his friends, also in the gear, was up in the far corner of the pub. They were mixing around, when an American tourist came along. And she said to Noel, I'm looking for Richard Basehart. Now, Richard Basehart wasn't to be seen that day. He was wherever he was around, but he wasn't in Moby Dick's. And Noel was thinking, oh, there he is, he said, up the corner, pointing to his pal, see, white lilac. There he is up the corner. Oh, she obviously didn't know him, So she went up and she said to the guy, the pal, she said, I'm from Minnesota and my friend adores you, Richard Basehart. She's out of her mind about you. Give me a hug. So he did, he played a part and oh, she won't believe me. So everybody at that time had what they call an autograph book, a little yellow book and a biro, and they tried to get as many film star autographs as they could. So she produced this and she gave it to him, the autograph book and the biro. Now she said, sign your name. So she believed me. So he took the biro, the autograph book, and he shouted out to Noel, how do you spell Basehart? He gave the game away. On the quayside at that time, there was one prop that you'd find it hard to understand, but it's in a photograph as well. It was an old goat with big horns, like Kirogla now, the King Puck. And he was on, God help us, he was being very old. He was on the quayside every day and they gave him a few carrots, and I suppose the cameras took him into the scene, like with the ships and that. But he these things kind of stick out in your mind. But as it wound down anyway, later on, mentioned John McGrath, the Clock 8. John McGrath was reading the Clock 8 up here, and he had some view from the top of the Clock 8 in 1954, looking down on the whole scene. He remembers it well. Actually, he's not here not today. They're doing something up in Horgans, I think. But John remembers well all that happened there. Yeah, moving on anyway, to the end of August, they were winding down. And they decided to have a big night. I'm nearly finished now. They have a big night in the showboat. McDonagh Hunty played all those summers out in the showboat. non-stop. So much so that Mick Delahunty bought a house in the Strand, bought one to live in for 3 months of the summer. Now his home was in Clonmel, but he had a summer house just behind Wilshire Shop, out the Strand. So they decided to have this going away ball, we call it, in the showboat on the last Sunday, and it was all arranged. And word went around during the week that a famous film star would be at the dance and not to miss it. And so when it came in here, this was thronged with people. They said it must be Gregory Peck. It must be. We haven't seen him that much other than the filming. He must be saying goodbye. He must be Gregory Peck. So when it came to 12 o'clock that night, Mick Delahunty blew an introduction, and out came the film star, the goat. They laid out the goat. They had caught everybody, and the place was thrown with people. You know, the way it goes. Move on a little bit then to about a year and a quarter after, or a year and a half, the finished product came back to town, to the Regal Cinema, and it was a midnight matinee, a special showing. The ordinary films went on until 11 o'clock or whatever, and then they stayed open, and at 12 o'clock one night they had this midnight matinee. And in fairness now to all the film producers or crew and all, the extras in town, like I remember like people like funny people like old women now, Han Mahoney, you know, Hannah Bandy, you know, and all these Sis Kelleher, all those old people, they all got tickets if they wanted them. They got priority. And that was the fun that night, because as you know in the cinema you're supposed to stay quiet. There was no quiet. They were all shouting and roaring and look at her and look at him, and you could see themselves on the screen. And this was something, because they had been attending the like all of us, the Regal and Horgans, all the years, and here they were on the screen themselves beside Gregory Peck and Noel Purcell and Richard Basehart, and they couldn't believe it. It was fascinating for them. And nowadays, even if you're down on the quayside, you can find people coming out asking about the making of Moby Dick. And you know, it's 70 years this month. 7-0. No wonder I'd be dilapidated. Shino will, market.